Welcome to our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast, episode 20. Each week, we will unfold the most recent cyber attacks and will provide you with valuable insights on how to shield your business from these threats, along with practical steps and tips to enhance your cybersecurity.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 20 of the Cybersafe Digest, our companion piece to our weekly email. Check out the website at cybersafe.co.uk to see how you can subscribe to that. I'm Martin Roberts, Managing Director of Neuways, and I'm here with
Toby Stevenson, Chief Technology Officer.
Okay, Toby, I saw this story on a CNN newsfeed this week, and I thought we should discuss it.
Okay.
I thought, to be fair, I'm going to read out the news release, the press release, because I think it's quite a good one. I'll take out some things because it may have more impact later on. So, an elaborate scam. A finance worker at a multinational firm was tricked into paying out, I'll talk about the value in a minute, by fraudsters using deepfake technology. And we all go, oh, deepfake, so what? You know, we'll talk about that. I'll try and summarise. But basically, this guy got a call from his boss saying, hey, I need to transfer a large amount of money. He was a bit suspicious, but he was invited then to a video conference call with his boss and multiple other people in the organisation who he recognised.
Okay.
And it's a UK-based chief financial officer. So, you know, whilst the officers were in Hong Kong, it was initially came to him as what appeared to be a phishing email. And this UK-based CFO talked about the need for a secret transaction to be carried out. He's naturally suspicious, the recipient of this, but he got invited to a video conference call where his boss and lots of other people were there. And so he was convinced. And he paid out, I'll do this in 200 million Hong Kong dollars, which was equivalent to $25.6 million, or 19.7 million pounds as of yesterday's exchange figure.
Ouch.
And I think the most astonishing thing about it is, hey, why would you be suspicious of that, being invited to a meeting? And, okay, it's a big payday, $25 million, £20 million. And why is it relevant to the people we talk to? We said before, this podcast is for CEOs, CFOs of businesses in the UK. Why is it relevant to them? Well, what's been done once is on the way to you.
Yeah.
I've had videos where people have taken a photograph of me off LinkedIn and had me singing a song. Most of my colleagues have done this, and people would know that it isn't me because I don't sing, or if they've heard me singing,
They know it's that's the validation.
that's the validation. And you know, it's funny. It's not very convincing, but the technology around this, aided by AI, is actually making it quite a relatively easy thing to do with people with the right skills.
Definitely. The technology's going on leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Week on week, there's improvements in both the large language models, so the chat GPT type things, but also the things that spur off the image generation, the video generation. Yeah, it's quite frightening. And the thing is, in this particular instance, you can kind of see that they've done a reasonable degree of due diligence because they've made a visual clarification and they've been given a verbal affirmation that it's the correct request. So
yeah, and you imagine sitting in a meeting with other people on a Teams call or Zoom, which you're used to, and being convinced that we need to make this transaction.
Yeah.
Looking at people who you know, appear to know.
Yeah.
Absolutely remarkable. What's the takeaway for the people we hope to speak to? Is that, this is really sophisticated, but actually that sophistication will become easier to achieve with AI. Now I'm going to take it to the other end here, because every time we have a new starter in our business, that new starter within a day or so, if they've advertised it on LinkedIn, got a new job, they'll start getting emails purportedly from me, in some cases Teams messages saying, hey, are you in? The benefit of our setup here is that we all work in one large office, and those people often wander over to me and say, hello, did you want to speak? But if I were in a remote location, they may be fooled into doing something which would compromise that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, in the example cited, it's obviously a dispersed workforce, and they don't necessarily have the luxury of that face to face. So rely very much on that kind of technology.
I guess we were talking about it earlier, actually, what are the things that you can do today to protect yourself from these things? I'm going to make some fairly obvious ones, but also just taking into account the deep fake stuff is hey, don't keep the photograph on your LinkedIn profile up to date, because that's what they're going to scrape. And if you've got Facebook, which is easily findable.
Yeah.
I mean, my first advice to anybody is don't do Facebook if you can help it, because you're giving away a lot of information absolutely legitimately.
Yeah.
You're consenting to an awful lot, but also the non-consent bit. If you're posting photographs up there of yourself and your family and things like that, it's a gift.
Yeah, I mean, you'd struggle to do a deepfake with a single photo, but
Yes.
once you've got multiple photos from different angles, then the model can build the 3D
Really
representation.
quickly. Yeah. And I think so. And I tend to keep. Anybody who's looked at my LinkedIn profile recently will know that my photograph's at least 10 years old, because I don't look that good these days. So don't be so keen to do that, because that technology is evolving so quickly that they will be able to take photographs and they will be able to achieve things like that. And be more or less generous with your public profile and things. There's the old obvious one about telling people you're going on holiday.
Yeah, that always surprises me. It's just like you might as well put a sign on the front door saying, please break in.
I'm not here.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So how are fraudsters using AI and using, not necessarily deep fakes, but AI to help them speed up the process to defraud people?
I suppose it comes down to these kinds of things to make the fish, the hook, more realistic.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we saw in the past years is that the grammar, the spelling, the layout of emails that come in purporting to be from a trusted partner, trusted supplier, a household name, had telltale signs. The language was ill constructed. There were spelling mistakes or punctuation errors, wrong logos, wrong places, and something that didn't meet the corporate brand. But AI is allowing the construction of much more realistic templates. And so I think that, and this actually comes back to getting a better handle on phishing.
Yes.
Because the example cited here was a message that came in, said, we need to do a transfer, here's the link to have the video call to validate it.
Yeah.
And it's all been staged.
Yes.
And so it's about having that natural suspicion ingrained in. There's only so much that can be done around identifying. I mean, I read reports that Google is starting to penalise content on websites that has been generated by AI. It's able to do a statistical analysis of the words that are used and say, this hasn't come from a person.
Yes.
And that's going to be a bit of an arms race for them against OpenAI and those other ones. Probably if you use Google's large language model prompt system, then...
Do you think it might eventually cancel itself out, just disappear in a puff of smoke, I wonder? It's like Google might cancel Google.
Yeah, cancel itself. Yeah, maybe. I suspect they probably won't penalise people for using their technology for generating content.
I suppose not.
But then, of course, they'll probably get hauled in front of the regulator or something like that as an abuse of power, because that's obviously what that would be. But yeah, I think that suspicion of emails that come in, something we were talking about earlier, robust manual processes. There was an attempt here to try and have that, and obviously the limitations of geography meant that they had to resort to video calls. But if we believe the report, they fell for the first cardinal sin almost of clicking on the link that was in the fish email to join the video call.
Yes.
So there's things like that. I think that's how we try to protect. It's about building our resilience to phishing and being able to spot these things and to be able to report them in a timely fashion. If there had been a culture of reporting in this organisation, that might have gone to somebody, this looks a bit dodgy, this looks unusual. Set boundaries about what normal and expected behaviour is. If you receive out of the blue a request to transfer 200 million Hong Kong dollars somewhere, that should trigger a series of events that says, okay, well, the request has been made, now we have to go through a validation process. Whereas it kind of feels there was like an informal validation process. I'll contact the person that sent it, who happens to be the man in charge of the purse strings, but I'll click on the link that he's provided me to contact him in. So when you kind of unpick it, you can see that with the right robust processes in place, you can defend somewhat against
Yeah,
things.
the right level of scepticism, I guess. Okay, one practical thing I'd say to people is, we if you're going to transfer money on a regular basis, so for instance payroll, and you've got somebody else setting up the payroll, somebody else approving it, which is naturally a good thing to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that we use is a special word which we agree beforehand between the two parties to say, okay, what is it? And actually, we only agree those words in a face-to-face meeting alone. We don't exchange those words on email or Teams or any other method of electronic communication. And that way, when we come to, somebody says to me, hey, can you approve these payments, please? I will ask for that word. They will ask for my word in exchange.
Yeah.
And because we know we haven't used it at any point electronically, then we are hopefully giving ourselves a bit of protection from an activity which should end up as being out of pocket. So that's a practical piece of advice you can use today without actually deploying any technology.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there isn't always a 100% technical solution to some of these problems. It's about people and behaviour,
Yes.
and processes and policies.
Okay, so at this point each week, Toby, we talk about acronym of the week. This week I've chosen EDR,
Okay, yeah,
which I'll let you go into and explain.
sure. Endpoint detection and response.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, very much. It's been great. Now, okay, so go on then. Endpoint detection and response. What is it? What is it actually? Where does it reside? What does it do?
Yeah, so one way to look at it is to think of it as antivirus software, which we spoke about last time.
Yeah.
Antivirus software on steroids. So it does all the things that most EDR tools do all the things that antivirus do,
Yeah.
and then they do a lot more stuff as well. So the primary advantage of an EDR tool is that it is looking at behavior on the system to see whether it conforms to known attack methods,
Yeah.
suspicious behavior, things like that. So we spoke last time about how antivirus is very good at spotting things that have been seen before, but can't really see things that have never been seen before because that's not how it works. An EDR tool is looking at the behavior, so it doesn't matter whether it's been seen before. It can see that this is happening and then something else is happening and then that's happening, and it knows that they are potentially bad things.
So it sees patterns.
Well, it sees every activity and it can detect patterns in there.
Yeah.
So at the risk of delving way too deep into this, there is an industry standard that talks around how attackers work,
Right.
which is called the MITRE attack framework.
Okay.
And each of those things is a very specific type of attacking activity. Okay. And what most respectable EDR tools can do is they can map the behavior that they see on the system to things within the MITRE attack framework. And so if they see certain activities that are consistent with attacking behavior,
Yeah.
they can then take an action, whether that be raise an alert or whether that be control and curtail the activity. So a good example might be there's a thing called PowerShell on everyone's Windows PC,
Yeah.
and it's a scripting tool, and it's extensively used and abused by attackers when they get onto your system. And the EDR tool is able to look at the commands that you're running, and it can map some of those commands to attack methods
Yeah.
that are known. So there are certain things that you would run in PowerShell that are completely innocuous and are just part of day-to-day system behaviours. You know,
And the truth is, I mean, PowerShell runs a lot of the time in the background. You don't even realise it's happening.
Exactly. And if you are running scheduled tasks,
Yeah.
maintenance tasks, things like that, they often are run by PowerShell.
Yeah.
If you are managing a large estate, rather than doing things manually one by one on a PC, you write a PowerShell script to do the same thing and push that out. So PowerShell absolutely has a place. So just not using PowerShell is not an option.
Yeah.
It's a necessary thing we have to have. But it can be abused. And there are certain commands that don't normally need to be run as part of the normal day-to-day.
Yeah.
And so these then can get flagged. Or if they are indicative of a particular attack type, then they can automatically, the EDR software can automatically kill the software that's going to automatically kill PowerShell.
Right.
It can take the computer off the network. So it can be quite aggressive in that respect.
Sure.
So a great example would be if you're a ransomware actor and you manage to get onto a PC, one of the first things you might try and do is delete everything that's associated with backups.
Sure.
Because that is your safety net.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you would do is you would delete something called shadow copies, which is kind of where Windows creates like an automatic behind the scenes snapshot of data, and so you can retrieve it.
Yes.
So the idea being is that and you may have seen it, you go into your My Documents and you've deleted, you've saved over a file incorrectly.
Sure.
And you right click, you go to previous versions, and you can find the one that was from yesterday, and you restore it back and
very
it back.
useful.
And that's what shadow copies in a nutshell kind of does. Yeah. So what an attacker will want to do, of course, is get rid of that, because if they've just suddenly come and overwritten all your files with encrypted versions, you right click, restore previous,
sure,
goodbye, and I'm all sorted. So to take that away from you, they want to go and delete these things. 99 times out of 100, when this is seen in an environment, it's not being used for legitimate purposes, because although it is a legitimate system administration activity, frequency is low.
Yes.
So when you see it, it should ring alarm bells. Yeah. And an EDR tool will see this, because it will see the PowerShell command, and it will go off and then make a determination as to whether it needs to kill PowerShell. In most cases it will, to stop it running, and then create an alert or disconnect the machine from the network. So it just gives you that almost like seventh sense to what's going on. The other thing that EDR tool is really good at, and it's kind of a byproduct of this monitoring of all behaviour, is it's capturing all of that telemetry. So you can then use it almost like as a black box to walk back. Okay, well, this has happened in the environment. Let's try and walk it back to see what the trigger point was. Oh, it was this email attachment that was clicked. It will show you the timeline of activities of things that were running. So it's a much more mature and advanced version of antivirus. It will still protect against those known things, and can still take all those same actions. But where it's really powerful is in these things that it hasn't seen before. So zero-day code, so things that it hasn't seen, but it behaves in a suspicious way, so it triggers an alarm or triggers an activity, or these abuses of legitimate things. So we call them living off the land attacks. And there's a GitHub repository somewhere called lolbins, which is basically living off the land binaries. It's a list of all the things that are getting abused. So you can keep up to date with those things. And people don't have to go and look at this. Security researchers look at it. It's like a little repository where people that are into security look at this and fawn over it and love it, and it's really useful for them.
I'm not going to explore that too far, but I understand, I think, what you're saying. Okay.
So
private time with your GitHub, yes, absolutely.
But living off the land attacks is a very real thing, because antivirus will never see them, because it's the abuse of legitimate operating system tools. So we saw one not that long ago. I think it was dubbed Felina. It was an abuse of a component within Microsoft Office.
Right.
And if you received an attachment crafted in a certain way, it would go off and run a program with an argument that you'd supplied in the attachment.
Goodness me.
So that is a legitimate component of the operating system that is being abused through a vulnerability. And antivirus wouldn't see that, because there's nothing wrong happening. But an EDR tool would see that, because it would see the suspect behaviour. Okay.
So, I mean, EDR, is it a tool for SMEs? Is it a tool for large organizations?
Absolutely, yes. It's like a lot of these technologies that we're starting to see now in the SME space. They start off with big enterprise, and they're slowly disseminating their way into smaller and smaller businesses.
Okay. Is it good value for them? I mean, is it expensive relatively, or?
It tends to be more expensive than antivirus.
But it's doing more. It's doing more.
But it's doing a lot more, and it gives you a lot more. Should give you a lot more peace of mind, a lot more comfort, and a lot more protection. So one of the things with antivirus is, let's say something gets detected. And you get a message saying, "Oh, we found such and such virus, we've cleared it out." What do you do then? Have you just seen the tail end of something happening? And it's a rogue artifact, and actually 10 things were done by an attacker on your machine, and the antivirus has just seen the executing of one known bad file, and they're still on your system, and they're going around your network. You don't know, because it doesn't capture that telemetry. It doesn't have that insight. An EDR tool does have that visibility and that insight. It can make those detections where people are trying to move laterally from machine to machine. So it can say, well, actually, what we're seeing is that this behaviour on here, and then it started trying to run something on another computer as well, and it can kind of build this whole timeline of activities, and then either make an automatic judgment or refer it to a human who can then lay a context around what's going on.
Okay, so let me ask you another question, and I think I don't know what the answer is, but should you, if you have EDR, do you need antivirus?
EDR, most reputable EDRs will normally come with an antivirus component in them, so it kind of supersedes it. No, that's not 100% true in every single case.
Okay.
There are certain EDR tools that will sit alongside your existing antivirus, but the market leaders tend to replace it as a combined package because they want that visibility. They want to see the known code and the unknown behaviours.
Okay, so I guess that, again, the takeaway from this is depending on your appetite for risk, an EDR tool is a great tool to look at, whatever size of your business.
Well, what I would say is that insurance companies it's a question: are you running an EDR tool? That's what we've seen in the last 6 months. It's an actual explicit question: are you running an EDR tool? They don't care what antivirus you're running; they want to know if you're running an EDR tool.
And if you're running an EDR tool, your premiums are going to be lower in theory.
Yes, it could be the difference. It could give you a lower premium. It could be the difference between having insurance and not, or certain exclusions being applied.
Okay, well that's a good acronym for this week and very, very useful. So, folks, that was episode 20. Thank you very much for seeing Toby. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks for the insights. And we're doing this face to face, so I know you're real.
Or am I?
Well, this is the question. No, been a good one. And hopefully everybody will take away something from that episode. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We've reached the end of episode 20 of our Cybersafe Digest Weekly Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and to make sure you don't miss out on our future episodes, hit that subscribe button on Spotify, Apple or Google Podcast. For more cybersecurity wisdom and resources, head over to our website at cybersafe.co.uk. See you next Thursday.